All right, if I could get everybody to come take a seat, we'll go ahead and get started here shortly.
I took it out. Yeah, I wanted to go on the internet without everyone seeing. I didn't know how to walk the screen. Okay.
Brad, you all good to go?
What that? Hey, actually, does the keyboard light up?
Yep.
No.
You were
Okay.
right there next
Just
to me.
wondering.
No.
How you doing, Drew? No, I'm waiting for you to take those seats, and I'm going to call the meeting to order here pretty soon. These are just galleries, should be fine. Can I get the juice on this mic a little bit higher? Yeah, thanks a lot. All right, if I could get everybody to take their seat, we'll go ahead and get started. Go ahead and call this joint session meeting to order at 7:07 p.m. We'll go ahead and start with roll call.
Can everybody hear me if I don't use the mic? Yeah. Cool. Okay, so we've got John Algetz. Here. Pedro Arenas. Here. Saul Boulanger. Here. Sonia Contreras.
Nick.
Kyle
Nick.
Copeland. Here. Nick. Andy Derringer. Mallory Bailey. Here. LJ Dewey. Billy Easton. What was your name? Braden Johnson. Nick Martinez. Carly Olson, Samuel Palacio, Curtis Perkins, Michael Robb, Nick Rosoff,
Here.
Tom Sanderson, Tyler Morrison, Nick West. What was your name? Wes Brown. And Matthew Palm. All right, Thomas Bancroft. Here. Kevin Coffey. Here. Matt Hare. Dylan Hinrich. What was your name?
Yeah, great.
Tyler Hogan. Here. Lubna Khan. Madison Parker. Tara Setzler. Here. Colton Swearingen. Yeah. John Barron. What was your name? And Rihanna Taniguchi. Cool. That's quorum for both.
All right, seeing that we have quorum in both houses, we'll go ahead and move on to item number 2, swearing in of senators. Could I get all the proxies to stand if you are able, and please raise your right hand. All right, so just repeat after me. I, and give your full name, enter into the solemn oath as representative or senator of the Associated Students of Oregon State University, with the solemn pledge to be constantly faithful to the obligation I now accept. I swear to uphold and execute, to the best of my abilities, the provisions of the Constitution and such acts as may be passed according to those provisions. These things I solemnly affirm and stand ready to be challenged should I fail in my obligation. All right, thank you very much. Please have your seat. Moving on with the agenda tonight, we'll move on to item number 3. Hopefully you all got my email about this, but we will be electing or selecting people to take place on the mediation committee. So the mediation committee will consist of myself, Vice President Cushing, Appropriations and Budgets Chair Rosoff, 2 additional representatives, and 3 additional senators. So I'm just going to take volunteers. If it's contentious, we'll go into an election. So who from each body would be interested in serving on the mediation committee? If the SIFC members who are also senators will need other senators to take your place since you'll be acting in your SIFC capacity. So Representatives Palm, Rob, and Contreras. Since there's only two, we'll have to do an election for the seats since there are three of you. So,
What's a good way to do this? You could just ask him
Yeah.
okay.
There you go.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I'll let you three decide. Okay, so Representatives Palm and Contreras will join Representative Rosoff on the mediation committee for House. Any senators who are not also SIFC members? I know that limits it to half of you, but we need at least 3 senators. Pretty please.
You can suspend your rules.
What's that?
You can suspend your rules.
Yeah, I'm not going against SIFC, half arm.
No, suspend the rules and get just people from Congress, not specifically senators.
I know Senator Taniguchi couldn't make tonight, but she might be interested in that.
Okay.
I wouldn't, because they might not make it, and then that might be bad for the mediation committee.
Any senators? Okay, thank you, Senator Coffey. It's a pretty big deal. For those of you who don't know, whatever budgets we vote down today will go to mediation committee, and the mediation committee will have the final say. It does not come back here. So it's quite a big deal to be on mediation committee. Representative Swearingen, one more? Or sorry, Senator Swearingen, my bad. Lubna? Yeah. Sounds good to me.
Oh, there's Tom.
What's that?
No, never mind, sorry.
Okay, so that is what the mediation committee will consist of. Thank you very much for volunteering. With that, we'll go ahead and move on to item number 4, Executive Director Confirmations. If I could have Drew Deathridge please come to the microphone to present for your confirmation.
Taylor, Tonga, Hopeway is here.
I already got her.
Point of clarification.
Yes.
Can I move to amend the agenda to table the approval of executive director until next week for further discussion within the Senate?
I don't see why not. So I'll take that as a motion. Is there a second? All right, there's a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
I just think it would be important to speak about it in a more dedicated setting within the Senate next week instead of taking some more time from this committee this week.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there further discussion? Okay, Drew's cool with that. We appreciate that. Okay, so any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote on tabling the confirmation of Drew Deathridge until next week in Senate. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Abstentions? All right, motion carries. That will go on to next Tuesday. Thank you very much for coming in and being prepared, Drew. All right, with that, we will go ahead and skip item number 5, correspondence. We'll get to that later, and we'll go ahead and begin with the reason we're all here tonight with budget presentations. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to SIFC Chair Brad Alvarez.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brad Alvarez, SIFC Chair. I know I probably met you all somewhat either last week or at the beginning of the year. So yeah, we're just going to run through each budget. I have them up here. We're going to start with the SIFC administration and discussion on it. I'm pretty sure. Do you run this like when we go into discussion?
Yeah,
you
we'll
run
go into
that. Okay, yeah. So I mean, we'll just go through each budget. I'm guessing there'll be some sort of discussion on it, and then there'll be a vote that Jacob will run, and I think it's both houses vote separately, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
Okay, so.
Oh yeah, so the SIFC admin, that's a budget that funds that auxiliaries and activities business center, and then the administration behind the SIFC committee, which is majority my salary, where my wages. And then in AABC, it's mainly wages that help, wages for all the staff, professional staff, and the student staff as well. And it's pretty simple. It went up a little bit just because of mandatory, well, it went up in basically all in because of mandatory increases. So like OPE went up. And a little bit was attributed to a stipend for the SIFC committee members before they have not been getting paid, and next year they will be. Yeah, and that covers that budget.
All right, and then if Appropriations and Budgets has a recommendation either way?
Continue.
Sounds good. All right, with that, I will go ahead and hear discussion on the SIFC administration budget. Keep in mind, this is an up or down vote. We can't critique line items. So let's have at it. It needs to pass both houses. So any discussion on the SIFC administration budget? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into a vote, and I think we'll start with House.
John Algetz. Pedro Arenas. Saul Boulanger. Sonia Contreras. Andy Derringer. LJ Dewey. Billy Eason. Brayden Johnson. Nick Martinez. Carly Olson. Samuel Palacio. Curtis Perkins. Michael Robb. Nick Rosoff.
4.
Tom Sanderson. Nick West. Mallory Bailey. Kyle Copeland. Tyler Morrison. And Matthew Palm. Okay, so that passes.
All right, so that passes in the House. On to the Senate.
John Barron. Colton Swearingen. Brianna Taniguchi. Tyler Hogan. Lubna Khan. Dylan Henrich. Kevin Coffey. Matt Hare. Kara Setzler. Madison Parker. And Thomas Bancroft. And that also passes.
All right, so with that, the SIFC administration budget is approved. On to the next budget.
All right, so this is bad debt expense, and what that is when, for example, if students don't end up paying their fees, and when they're expected to, it's just a small amount that goes to cover those students who don't end up paying. And it dropped a little because of like increased enrollment. There's the main reason why it dropped 10 cents.
Okay, any recommendations from Appropriations and Budgets?
All the discussions have been made, so you can go ahead.
Sounds good.
Appreciate it.
All right, with that, we'll go ahead and move into discussion on the bad debt expense budget. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into a vote, and we'll start again with the House Representatives.
John Algetz. Pedro Arenas. Saul Boulanger. Sonia Contreras. Andy Derringer. LJ Dewey. Billy Easton. Brayden Johnson. Is that an abstention? Nick Martinez. Carly Olson. Samuel Palacio. Curtis Perkins. Michael Robb. Nick Rosoff.
Yay.
Tom Sanderson. Nick West. Mallory Bailey. Kyle Copeland. Tyler Morrison. Matthew Palm. Passes.
And on to Senate.
John Barron. Colton Swearingen. Brianna Taniguchi. Tyler Hogan. Lubna Khan. Dylan Henrich. Kevin Coffey. Matt Hare. Tara Setzler. Madison Parker. Thomas Bancroft. That also passes.
All right, and with that, the bad debt expense student fee level for 2014 is approved. On to the next item, contingency.
So the contingency is basically like the emergency fund for SIFC. When different organizations have unexpected funding needs, then they can request a contingency request from SIFC, and we'll hear it, and then we could grant them it, partially grant it, deny it, and it comes out of our contingency fund. It's also a pot of money for in case something terribly happens, and we need to fund organizations. Maybe for some reason something happens, and we need money to, at least OUS recommends us to have 2 months expenses on hand for the entire SIFC budget, which runs around $28 to $29 million. So it helps a stopgap if for some reason we're not able to collect fees. And it also went down because the contingency fund has gotten large and enrollment growth as well.
All right, sounds good. Any appropriations and budget recommendation? Good to go. Sounds good. With that, I'll go ahead and entertain discussion on the contingency fund student fee level. All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into a vote, starting with the House of Representatives.
John Elgetz. Pedro Arenas. Saul Boulanger. Sonia Contreras. Andy Derringer. LJ Dewey. Billy Easton. Braden Johnson. Nick Martinez. Carly Olson. Samuel Palacio. Curtis Perkins. Michael Robb. Nick Rosoff.
Yes.
Tom Sanderson. Nick West. Mallory Bailey. Kyle Copeland. Tyler Morrison. Matthew Palmer. So that passes.
All right, on to the Senate.
John Barron. Colton Swearingen. Brianna Taniguchi. Tyler Hogan. Lubna Khan. Dylan Henrich. Kevin Coffey. Matt Hare. Tara Setzler. Madison Parker. Thomas Bancroft. And that also passes.
Okay, and with that, the contingency fund level for 2014 is set at 75 cents and is approved. All right, moving on to the next budget, counseling and psychological services.
So their budget is identically the same, mainly a result of they started to use some more money out of their contingency fund to help offset some increases they had by hiring more counselors, as well as opening a service for after hours, which I don't know if you all saw, but you got an email and you own it about the new service, which is actually really cool because before they weren't able to really have after hours help and you'd have to like go somewhere in the city, but now it's on campus, which is pretty cool. Yeah, and there's really, it's the same, so it's not a whole bunch different.
All right, sounds good. Any recommendations from A and B?
I'd like to open up the floor for discussion if anybody.
Any discussion on the counseling and psychological services budget? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into a vote on the counseling and psychological services budget, starting with House Representatives.
John Elgetz. Pedro Arenas. Saul Boulanger. Sonia Contreras. Andy Derringer. LJ Dewey. Billy Easton. Braden Johnson, Nick Martinez, Carly Olson, Samuel Palacio, Curtis Perkins, Michael Robb, Nick Rosoff,
Yes.
Tom Sanderson, Nick West, Mallory Bailey, Kyle Copeland, Tyler Morrison, Matthew Palm. Passes.
All right.
John Barron, Colton Swearingen, Brianna Taniguchi, Tyler Hogan, Lubna Khan, Dylan Hinrich, Kevin Coffey, Matt Hare, Tara Setzler, Madison Parker, Thomas Bancroft. It also passes the Senate.
Okay, with that, the SIFC recommended fee level for counseling and psychological services is approved. Moving on to our next item, student health services.
All right, so again, the student health service fee stays flat. The enrollment increase was offset partially by mandated increases, and also the budget note, which you notice is, as proposed, the SIFC Student Health should use their capital plan number 3, which was a plan to draw down their working capital and major projects funds. So right now they're funding about $800,000 of their budget out of working capital. And plan number 3 was they're going to start increasing their, well, they're projected to start increasing their fee, I believe, next year, because as they start running out of working capital, they'll have to start using more student fees to fund their budget. So that's kind of what that was about. And yeah, they really didn't have any major decision packages. It was mainly just mandated increases.
All right, sounds good. Anything from A&B?
Thank you. I'd like to open up the floor for discussion on this one as well.
Sounds good. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into a vote on student health services.
John Eljet, Pedro Arenas, Saul Boulanger, Sonia Contreras, Andy Derringer, LJ Dewey, Billy Easton, Braden Johnson, Nick Martinez, Carly Olson, Samuel Palacio, Curtis Perkins, Michael Robb, Nick Rosoff,
Yes.
Tom Sanderson, Nick West, Mallory Bailey, Kyle Copeland, Tyler Morrison, Matthew Palm. Passes the House. John Barron, Colton Swearingen, Brianna Taniguchi, Tyler Hogan, Lubna Khan, Dylan Hinrich, Kevin Coffey, Matt Hare, Tara Setzler, Madison Parker, Thomas Bancroft. Passes the Senate.
Okay, and with that, the SIFC recommended fee level for the Memorial Union for 2014 is approved. Oh, sorry, not Memorial Union. You skipped a slide on me. That was Student Health Services. Now we're on the Memorial Union.
My bad.
Yeah, so moving on to Memorial Union. They have a pretty, you notice the increase is rather severe, and that's due to the bookstore is leaving the MU, and they're relocating to next to the parking structure in Gill. They used to pay the MU a large sum of money. I think it was up around $700,000 a year, which helped just supplement their budget. And now that is, since that will be gone, student fees has to step in to cover that loss. And then the summer fee went up. We try to keep it proportional to how much the allocated amount for the fall, winter, spring fee went up. That's how much we increased the summer fee for 2015. Yeah, that sums it up.
All right, sounds good. Appropriations and budgets.
Anything from the floor?
Any discussion regarding the Memorial Union budget? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into a vote.
John Algetz. Pedro Arenas. Saul Bollinger. Sonia Contreras. Andy Derringer. LJ Dewey. Billy Eason. Braden Johnson. Nick Martinez. Carly Olson. Samuel Palacio. Curtis Perkins. Michael Robb. Nick Rosoff.
Yes.
Tom Sanderson. Nick West. Mallory Bailey. Kyle Copeland. Tyler Morrison. Matthew Palm. Passes the House. John Barron. Colton Swearingen. Brianna Taniguchi. Tyler Hogan. Lubna Khan. Dylan Hinrich. Kevin Coffey. Matt Hare. Tara Setzler. Madison Parker. Thomas Bancroft. Passes the Senate.
Okay, and with that, the SIFC recommended fee level for the Memorial Union is approved. Moving on to the next item on our agenda, the athletics budget.
So the athletics budget, that is basically money transferred to the athletic department, and in return we receive tickets to football, baseball, and basketball, and like volleyball, wrestling, women's basketball, and gymnastics and Gill, and then I believe all the other sports are free. ASOSU also gets some extra services, like an announcement during all home football games and basketball games. And the fee decreased mainly because how they calculate the value of the tickets we receive stayed the same. However, enrollment went up, so whatever they requested was about the same as last year, and that's why the fee went down, because now there's more students paying. Yeah.
All right, sounds good. Anything appropriations and budgets?
If there's anything from the floor.
All right, entertaining discussion on the athletics budget. Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into a vote, starting with the House of Representatives.
John Algetz. Pedro Arenas. Saul Bollinger. Sonia Contreras. Andy Derringer. LJ Dewey. Billy Eason. Braden Johnson. Nick Martinez. Carly Olson. Samuel Palacio. Curtis Perkins. Michael Robb. Nick Rosoff.
Yes.
Tom Sanderson. Nick West. Mallory Bailey. Kyle Copeland. Tyler Morrison. Matthew Palm. Passes the House.
All right.
John Barron. Colton Swearingen. Brianna Taniguchi. Tyler Hogan. Lubna Khan. Dylan Hinrich. Kevin Coffey. Matt Hare. Tara Setzler. Madison Parker. Thomas Bancroft. Also passes the Senate.
All right, and with that, the SIFC recommended fee level for athletics is approved. Moving on to our next budget, SSI.
All right, so Student Sustainability Initiative. If you notice, they have an extremely large decrease. This is a lot due to the entire reduction of the green fee that they have been receiving for the past several years. It was partly off SSI. There was a review committee that looked at SSI over fall, mostly fall. I know it was somewhat of their recommendation. Kind of the reasoning behind it was we wanted to see really what they needed to develop kind of like a plan for how they're going to actually start initiating and completing projects, because that was like they have an extremely large working capital because they've been receiving about $380,000 and really haven't been able to do much with it. Not like entirely their fault. There's been a lot of things going on, but it's just something that we needed to reevaluate. They have an extremely large working capital that if something comes up, they can use it, and they should actually start, at least from our discussions, start initiating a project on the tennis pavilion. The pavilion in the small bathroom in the turf, as well as the tennis center, start a photovoltaic project there. And then this will be, depending on what they find, what kind of projects they find, it could go up next year if they do find demand for their kind of project, especially with the SEC coming in. That's one area they're looking at to start help with sustainability. So this is definitely something that could vary in the next upcoming years, but for now we felt that this was the appropriate amount. They're also receiving about $67,000 from their working capital to help draw that down, because that will probably be that's in excess of about $1 million right now. Yeah.
All right, sounds good. Anything with appropriations and budgets?
Given the severity of the reduction, I'd like to give the chance for a delegate from the SSI or the student body to speak.
All right, so is there any discussion regarding the SSI budget? If you would like to speak, please approach the microphone at the front, and you can get a yield from a senator or representative. But I don't see any. Oh, yeah, go ahead. If someone could get the gentleman a yield, please. Yep. Yeah.
Brian Laird, thank you.
All good. All right.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity. My name is Brian Laird. I'm the current fee board chair for the program. And more than anything, just wanted to say, yeah, we're here, but yeah, we discussed this obviously at length with the review committee and SIFC. So for this year, we're comfortable with a reduction of this magnitude, knowing that if we can provide a comprehensive project list for the future, that we're going to be able to increase our funding again. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much. With that, we'll go ahead and move on to further discussion on the SSI fee level. Yeah. Yeah, if you could approach the microphone. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you'd like to approach the microphone.
Hi, everyone. I'm glad to see that we're more respective for the budget, but one thing that worries me is that if we bring it down, we're not looking at the quality of the program. So maybe we should ask questions that why are they not using the green fee? Do they need to hire more people? Do they need their facilities closer to campus? Where are their offices? Do they need support? Instead of looking at what we can save, we should look at what we should quantify on campus. Because I get it, it's a great fee. It's a margin, so it's going to go down, so we can say student fees went down. But I feel for a campus that's agriculture and engineering, our green life and our green vision really does depend on this for the students. So let's look at this as a place for us to grow instead of how much further can we go, because it kind of worries me that our greenness on campus isn't doing so well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, former President Hopoi. Is there further discussion on the SSI budget? All right. Yeah, go ahead.
My major concern with dropping the budget this much was if potentially next year they do need the extra funds, being able to do like a over 200% increase to get it back to where it was last year.
Yeah, that's definitely a concern that they've raised and we've thought of. At least from my experience being on this committee the past 2 years, if we see some sort of request our decision package that is well thought out, well presented, and makes sense. I can't remember a time where we've really said no. So it doesn't really worry me that if they come next year and they're like, look at all these cool projects we can do. I mean, we would like our fee to go up like $1.50 or however how much that's needed. I don't really see a reason why. I mean, the committee would say no. Again, I have really no idea what the committee would do, but I just don't see a reason on why it would get rejected or turned down.
Thank you very much. Is there further discussion? Yep. Senator Parker?
As a member of the Student Incidental Fee Committee from this year as well, I would just also like to add that these numbers were not approached from a perspective of trying to bring down the fee substantially, but just really looking at the fee and trying to be transparent within our process and within the process of the boards as well. In meeting with the members of SSI, they were also able to provide a 5-year plan and kind of look at what that money looks like in the future as well, which is something that we've found to be very helpful. And something that committees typically are able to acknowledge in future boards as well. So this really wasn't coming from a perspective of trying to cut and slash money wherever we were able to, but really just trying to make sure that we were putting money where there was effort and intent, and we could see this is where you see your money going. And for projects and other things that cannot be foreseen, that is where working capital comes from. That is where the contingency request comes from within SIFC's budget, which is a budget that we have already approved. So we have the ability to approve other projects as they come up, and I think that that is important to remember as well. And then just also knowing that, like, when students are able to show, here's an area of need, we've thought this out, this has been planned for, the committee is totally able to acknowledge that. And I also appreciate what you had to say as well, because I think that that speaks to the work that the committee and the boards have done also.
All right. Thank you, Senator Parker. Representative Paul?
Hi, I'm defending my master's in about a month, so I didn't have a lot of time to go through those budgets, maybe about 30 minutes. And I have to say it's kind of hard to vote on most of these when all we're really getting is the numbers. So I'm just expressing some general, like, because I mean, I know about our budget because I help with that process, but.
Yeah, I mean, the whole process has been really open. Anyone could have shown up to any of the budget presentations. That's where, like, I mean, it's tough for this joint session because that exact reason. It makes it very difficult for you all to get an understanding of the budgets and an understanding of the reasoning behind these numbers. But I can tell you the process we go through is very thorough. Hour and a half, 2 hours spent on the budgets during the presentations and kind of going through the budgets, and then another 4 hours in open hearing. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty rigorous process on our side. It is a problem on the joint session side, though, is you guys see a number is not exactly, like, you're not too informed on these numbers, which makes it difficult, but it's kind of what we have to live with unless we do some sort of drastic change.
All right, further discussion on the SSI budget. Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into a vote, starting with the House of Representatives.
John Algetz. Pedro Arenas. Saul Boulanger. Sonia Contreras. Andy Derringer. LJ Dewey. Billy Eason. Braden Johnson. Nick Martinez. Carly Olson. Samuel Palacio. Curtis Perkins. Michael Robb. Nick Rosoff.
Against.
Tom Sanderson. Nick West. Mallory Bailey. Kyle Copeland. Tyler Morrison. Matthew Palm. I have it passing the House. John Barron. Colton Swearingen,
Just want to talk about it more.
Brianna Taniguchi, Tyler Hogan, Lubna Khan, Dylan Henrich, Kevin Coffey, Matt Hare, Tara Setzler, Madison Parker, Thomas Bancroft. And I have it passing the Senate.
So pass both? Yep. Okay, and with that, the SIFC recommended fee level for the Student Sustainability Initiative is approved. On to the next item on our agenda, which is the Our Little Village student fee level.
All right, so Our Little Village, there, it's comprised of the Child Care and Family Resources. That's like the main area where they come out of. Our Little Village is more of the areas in the library and right now rec sports that it's helpful for student parents when they go and they want to go work out or go to the library, they can drop off their kid there while they're in the building. They also do child subsidies to help with childcare for student parents. A couple reasons behind the increase is mandatory increases as well as an increase in their subsidy are the main reasons behind the Our Little Village increase.
All right, anything from appropriations and budgets?
Just to open up the floor to anybody that would like to speak about it.
Okay, any discussion on the Our Little Village student fee level? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into a vote, starting with the House of Representatives.
John Elgetz. Pedro Arenas. Saul Boulanger. Sonia Contreras. Andy Derringer. LJ Dewey. Billy Easton. Braden Johnson. Nick Martinez. Carly Olson. Samuel Palacio. Curtis Perkins. Michael Robb. Nick Rosoff.
Yes.
Tom Sanderson. Nick West. Mallory Bailey. Kyle Copeland. Tyler Morrison. Matthew Palm. Passes the House.
All right.
John Barron. Colton Swearingen. Brianna Taniguchi. Tyler Hogan. Lubna Khan. Dylan Henrich. Kevin Coffey. Matt Hare. Tara Setzler. Madison Parker. Thomas Bancroft. I have it passing the Senate.
Okay, with that, the recommended fee level for Our Little Village for 2014 is approved. Moving on to the next item on our agenda, my favorite budget and yours, ASOSU.
Cool, so I'm guessing all of you know kind of what ASOSU does and how their budget kind of works. Major part of their budget, most of you are probably aware, but they also fund the Human Services Resource Center. So fees able to drop mainly due to enrollment increase as well as some money is being withdrawn out of their working capital, if you can see in the budget note. Some requests they did have was the OSA fee went up, so that increased a little bit. Safe Ride funding for a third van and more drivers to go with it, as well as with HSRC increasing their subsidies as well as establishing a meal bucks floor. Those are also approved within the budget. But the enrollment increase and a couple items in their budget that, let's see, it was that administrative and logistics advocate dropped, as well as the GTA for graduate affairs also was taken out of the budget. So that was another reason why the budget was able to go down.
All right, any recommendations from appropriations and budgets?
To open up the floor.
All right, is there any discussion on the ASOSU fee level? All right, Representative Palm.
I'm not biased at all here, but this is a fabulous budget. Please pass it.
Thank you, Representative Palm. Further discussion on the ASOSU budget? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into a vote, starting with the House of Representatives.
John Eljets. Pedro Arenas. Saul Boulanger. Sonia Contreras. Andy Derringer. LJ Dewey. Billy Eason. Braden Johnson. Nick Martinez. Carly Olson. Samuel Palacio. Curtis Perkins. Michael Robb. Nick Rosoff.
Yes.
Tom Sanderson. Nick West. Mallory Bailey. Kyle Copeland. Tyler Morrison. Matthew Palm. Passes the House. John Barron. Colton Swearingen. Brianna Taniguchi. Tyler Hogan. Lubna Khan. Dylan Henrich. Kevin Coffey. Matt Hare. Tara Setzler. Madison Parker. Thomas Bancroft. Passes the Senate.
All right, with that, the SIFC recommended fee level for ASOSU is approved, with noted opposition, of course. All right, moving on to the next item on our agenda, diversity development.
All right, so diversity development, that's the Women's Center, Pride Center, as well as the diversity development, the admin side, as well as all 4 cultural centers. The main reason for the increase was the approval of a custodial position for all of the cultural centers, especially needed now that NAL has their own much newer center, and the other 3 will start coming online over the next year and a half. It helps to have a full-time custodial position to clean them, as well as the Pride Center, they needed a GTA. So those were the 2 main reasons behind the increase. And then last year, we granted them a petition package for a classified position, which has not been hired yet. So we kind of discussed that, and that should be up and running here pretty soon over the next 6 months ish is the timeline for that.
Okay, appropriations and budgets.
Yeah, there was a pretty major issue with this one, so I'm going to open up the floor.
All right, do we have any discussion on the student diversity budget? Representative Palm.
I have been asked to yield the floor to a series of people.
Okay, if you'd like to approach the microphone, feel free.
First up, President Harris.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. I'm Amelia, ASOSU President, and I am a member on SIFC. And I wanted to speak because I believe that I voted wrongly in not supporting the professional faculty for each of the cultural centers. I think that SIFC did not place a similar level of scrutiny to other professional faculty positions on other budgeting boards, and I think that I truly voted wrongly not to support it. And so I ask that House and Senate please send this budget to mediation so that we can make sure that these centers have the support that they need with professional faculty. And so that's my request, because I realize that I made the wrong decision. So, thank you.
All right, thank you, President Harris. Whoever Representative Palm is yielding to next. All right, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you for having me tonight. What I'm about to read was, I believe, given to all of you tonight as well, and I have a few updates, and I'll make sure that the update is given and made sure that it's added to the minutes. So my name is Daniel Cardenas. I am the graduate teaching assistant within the Native American Longhouse, ENA House. I'm speaking to you this evening in response to a request that was made of the Student Diversity Budgeting Board last Tuesday, February 12, 2013. During this hearing, SDBB budget was tentatively approved for the fiscal year 2013-2014. Within this budget, suggested that the funding and therefore the hiring of full-time faculty positions within the cultural centers are to be postponed until further data is collected from students proving the need for full-time staff. Before the tentative approval of the SDBB budget, myself, along with a dozen other students and alumni, spoke to the urgent need of these positions. While we were thanked for our input and passion, it's my perception that no further formal discussion was held to consider the testimonies and the immediate need of funding of these positions. In response to this tentative approval and request for more information, I've completed a 12-page white paper that consolidates OSU and OUS reports, internal external reviews of ISS, summaries of meeting minutes for meetings that were held with Cultural Center staff Larry Roper and Ed Ray, as well as a review of academic literature regarding Cultural Center practices across the United States. I will make this document public for all of the OSU community once personal conversations that are referenced within the white paper have been reviewed and confirmed for their accuracy. Until that time, I'd like to provide a summary of my findings. Currently, there are 248 Native students on the OSU campus. This equates to 1% of the student population. The six-year graduation rate for Native students at OSU averages 43.6%. That's 16.8% below the average six-year graduation rate. Recently completed internal external reviews of ISS state the students' request for the implementation of full-time faculty positions within the cultural centers. Students ask that these position descriptions, the descriptions of these positions include the faculty member acting as a mentor, facilitator, and advisor for cultural development, as well as student leadership development, oversight of the facilities and risk management of the new cultural centers, lead in the update of assessment of diversity programming, and also an advocate along with students during breaks and during summer months. Student leadership development has a direct correlation to racial and ethnic identity development and therefore should be nurtured within the cultural centers. Currently, students are communicating feel as if this is not being done to the extent that's needed. Tribal leadership from the 9 federally recognized tribes of Oregon strongly support the hiring of full-time staff they have for the last decade within the Native American Longhouse, and even longer than that. Recently completed campus visits to similar academic institutions have resulted in best practices of student-ran diversity programming models. Just this week, Cultural Center student leaders reported that students within these models indicate the crucial function of full-time faculty within these centers. The hours worked, as well as the level of difficulty of the tasks that are being asked of undergraduate as well as graduate students, is beyond the scope of current job descriptions, and thus academic performance and the retention of staff within the cultural centers is negatively affected. Also, the risk management concerns of cultural center patrons and the quality of customer service in regards to our reservation system is lacking. Personal interviews with students and staff have resulted in describing the budgeting process as tumultuous. A full review of the working relationships between SIFC, the Student Budgeting Board's SIFC Liaison, AABC, should be considered during the spring term. It should be noted that while no one group or one person necessarily is fully responsible for the current state of the process, also no one group or persons should be exempt of the responsibility. It suggested that a formal approval process for the hiring of additional staff be added to the current budgeting procedures with protocols that guide how the level of information required from budgeting boards is dependent upon proposed staff classification. It's important to note that multiple internal documents suggest that the further assessment of the need of a faculty position is not necessary due to the extent to which students were involved with the internal, external processes and other caucuses with administrative leaders. Instead, literature suggests that further research must be done regarding the proper way to assess diversity programming, the efficacy of Oregon State University's cultural centers, and how the implementation of a full-time staff position will affect student development, programming and retention. The extent to which current survey tools collect more than simply participant counts are considered both valid and reliable remains unclear. And students must play, it's important that students play an active role in this assessment process, as well as the writing of full-time staff position descriptions. Impromptu assessment and of underrepresented populations has historically yielded less than satisfactory results, less than the amount of results needed, and therefore the resulting data is considered inconclusive much of the time, including on the Oregon State University campus. This suggests that this assessment process should be done with care and not completed in a matter of weeks, as previously suggested. Lastly, the hiring of full-time faculty positions should be implemented alongside with the consideration of additional part-time student positions within the cultural centers. This will ensure that student presence in the cultural centers, as well as an attempt to reduce the total work hours of center staff, therefore stressing the importance of academics and creating a culture of high-impact learning. Again, I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity to speak today. I'd like to thank all those that provide the information that's necessary to make this report possible, including OSU students, administration, AABC staff, as well as SIFC members. While I understand the importance of holding all student fee-funded organizations to the same level of expectations, and thus the hesitancy to move to approve the funding of these full-time faculty positions so soon after the completion of an ISS internal-external review, it's important that we also acknowledge the overwhelming support from students, staff, and the tribal leaders for these faculty positions. Last Tuesday, during the SIFC hearing, I mentioned that student fees are an extension of student voice. It's important to note that it's the opinion of some that utilizing student fees for the salary of full-time staff will disrupt student autonomy and quiet student voice. I'd also like to remind everyone of the 6-year retention rate I mentioned earlier. While they may occupy the newest building on this campus, it's not possible for the voices of native students of Oregon State University to be heard unless these voices are retained and then unified. Therefore, in an attempt to state this from a viewpoint of neutrality and as a reflection of the data that's been gathered over the past week, it's my recommendation that members of the House and Senate forego the recommendations of SIFC to postpone the funding for these positions, and that members further discuss the hiring of a minimum of 2 full-time faculty members within the cultural centers immediately. It's my further recommendation that student leaders, faculty, and administrative staff work together to ensure that these positions are filled as soon as humanly possible. For any further hesitation in amplifying the voices of those on this campus whose voices have gone unheard for so long may in fact be the difference of future OSU native students from having the ability to speak at all. I appreciate you all taking the time to hear me speak this evening, and thank you in advance for your consideration of this testimony. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for your remarks. They're well taken. Before we get on with before we go on with the speakers list, I'm going to go ahead and yield to my Vice Chair, Vice President Cushing, really quick.
As a point of order, I want to request of my honorable colleagues in the House and Senate and your proxies that you please remain quiet and respectful when people are speaking during discussion, especially our guests. Thank you.
All right, and it appears we have a pretty long list of people who would like to speak, so I would just humbly request that people keep their remarks as brief as possible, while still at the same time making all the points you feel necessary to make. So whoever's next, feel free to approach the microphone. And please state your name for the record if you could.
Hello. Okay, so my name is Emiko Koike. I am the current external coordinator for the Asian and Pacific Cultural Center. So I will be talking about my personal experience in being in this position and why we need personal staff for the cultural centers and the resource centers. I like to think of all of these centers as being a business. We are in the service industry. We are serving our students here at Oregon State in the development of diversity here on campus. So I'm lucky in being a student of the College of Business. I have experience with finance and accounting. Therefore, I am at an advantage of creating a budget for the rest of our year. But take into consideration that other students are in the liberal arts college, biology, chemistry, history, all these other majors. These students are having to figure out how to do a budget on their own. They don't have a professional staff to guide them along the way. In addition, mentoring. I do a lot of trainings on leadership and management and interpersonal skills, but that does not make me an expert. I would like to have someone there to help me and hold my hand through these processes because I use Google. But do you believe everything on the internet? No. Is it the best way? No. So I would prefer to have someone hold my hand from their experience and pass those experiences on so that I can pass them on to someone else when I grow up. I'm not grown up, and I need someone to help me. And I want to help the generations after me because I'm the next generation. This is me now. But we need to help those behind us. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Koike. The next speaker, please.
Oh, hello. My name is Agustin Vega-Peters. I'm currently Director for Multicultural Affairs within ASOSU. I've previously been the External Coordinator of the Centro Cultural Cesar Chavez, as well as Community Outreach and Office Assistant for the Asian and Pacific Cultural Center. This past couple days, I had the privilege of going down to Stanford to look at how their cultural centers and services work. And I'm just gonna touch on 2 points of how professional staff really improve the centers and their ability to perform. First is just the general training of students. Having that professional staff allows for the students to have some sort of memory of what these positions are and easier transitioning into them. A lot of times here we have students coming in and they're new from the centers or they haven't been a part of the centers before. So their supervisor trying to teach other people how to supervise, and it gets really tricky. So having that professional staff will ease that transition. Also in the sense of event planning, having this professional staff creates institutional memory. We do have, right now, currently the way we document is, with pictures and posters, flyers and all that, but having somebody there that can actually go through and help the students understand what the pros and cons of the events were years down the road, especially for events that happen yearly. Also, at the centers down in Stanford, the professional staff helps with the paperwork. A lot of time the students here, when they do their events, get caught up trying to take care of all the paperwork, and then the events don't have enough time or kind of the focus that they need to actually prosper. One of the interesting things, I know this is kind of regardless of our proportion size of the school, but for them, the students had a better ability to put thought into their programming, to put advertisement, things like that, because they weren't constantly getting caught up with trying to take care of all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's what I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Whoever's next.
My name is Jill Wheaton Abraham, and first I would like to thank everybody for giving us the opportunity to speak. I am currently the graduate teaching assistant for American Indian Initiatives, and last year I was the graduate teaching assistant at the Native American Longhouse. I actually resigned from that position at the end of the year because it was too much work. There were a lot of responsibilities placed upon me above and beyond what I thought I was getting into, and I still wanted to be a successful student. So from myself, I ask that you move this to mediation, but I also am carrying a letter from the Oregon Indian Education Association, and I would like to read that. Dear Oregon State University community, the Oregon Indian Education Association, established in 1974, is the oldest and largest state Indian education organization with 33 elected board representatives from throughout the state of Oregon, including the federally recognized tribes. The purpose of the association is to promote quality education services for American Indian people in the state of Oregon, from early childhood education through college, career, and professional development. The academic success of our American Indian students and their retention within our university programs is of the utmost and premier importance of tribal communities throughout the state of Oregon. We, as members of the Oregon Indian Education Association, are concerned that efforts at Oregon State University do not promote the success of our students in ways that are culturally congruent with our practices. The original Longhouse was created because American Indian students needed a place that allowed them to be themselves while away from their family, culture, and Native communities. Tribal communities understood this much-needed supportive environment, spiritually and academically, so they advocated for the building and maintenance of the Longhouse. In the beginning, we were assured that a Native person would always be present to serve as a role model, counselor, and mentor for their academic success, not only academically, but spiritually as well. This apparently is no longer happening and is a problem at Oregon State University. We have worked with the University of Oregon, Lane Community College, and with Portland State University to ensure that there are Native positions serving our Native students and the communities they represent. Unfortunately, Oregon State University has shown over time that it does not value this relationship by the lack of an experienced and community-grounded Native American position. We are concerned that our students are not graduating, that their retention rates are low, and that they lack the mentoring support they need to be successful representatives of their tribes. In response, the Oregon Indian Education Association is a strong advocate for the return of the original idea to have an individual who serves the students and the community within the Native American Longhouse. In summary, we ask that you seriously consider funding a position for the Native American Longhouse, a position that we understand that has been requested for over 10 years and has not been granted. This is an opportunity to begin a new chapter in Native American relations with Oregon State University. Let us build a community to represent the spirit of a new Longhouse. Sincerely, Allison Ball, PhD, President, Oregon Indian Education Association. So just to reiterate, I really ask that you move this to mediation so we can further discuss this budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if it would be possible for us to get a copy of the letter for our archives.
Sure.
Yeah, feel free to pass it off to this guy at the end here. All right, we'll continue on with discussion. Yeah, go ahead. We'll continue on with the list of Representative Palm's yields.
Hello, my name is Christy Jones, and I'm Eastern Band Cherokee. I come here to speak as a former student leader and also a community member. I thought Gail was up here with me, so sorry. I worked at the Native American Longhouse for 3.5 years as the external coordinator. I loved my experience there. It built the foundation to my leadership experiences. And it also, I can't help but also remember the struggles that I went through while being a student leader. My personal relationships and my academics also took a toll, and I wish that I had a mentor in the center with me to help guide me through that. And I have a little statement here. At the Native American Longhouse, we provide students and the community with academic support, leadership opportunities, cultural sharing, and a home away from home. And with this space, bigger space, more opportunities to house programs in our building. Having a professional position at the Longhouse does not take away from student leadership. It will encourage student leadership and support it. It also provides a continuity and a resource as to what has happened in the past. I ask that you all do not approve this budget and send it to mediation.
Thank you very much.
Greetings and good evening. Thank you for having me here. My name is Gail Woodside. I'm a PhD student here at Oregon State University. I am a state-enrolled member of the Laura-Muskogee Creek Nation. I also have ancestry from Fort Sill Apache and Northern Cheyenne. I'm here today because I am part of the advisory board for the Native American Longhouse. I've been on the advisory board as an elder since 2008. And through the years, our activities within the Longhouse and support for the Longhouse has been relinquished to less and less interaction with our students. It's troubling to me as an elder here and as part of the advisory board that with our new house, that the students still continue to struggle. It is very, very important that a Native presence, someone who is a mentor, not necessarily an elder, but someone who can assist the students as they learn how to become leaders for the next 7 generations that are coming behind us. I'm standing here today with all of my ancestors standing behind me to hope that you will send this budget to mediation and approve a professional person inside of the Longhouse. Now that we have the new house, it is a large facility, and we are getting tenfold the questioning, the visits, and the activities that will be present there. Through the years, I have seen the students struggle due to overwhelming hours and expectations, while also trying to be an exemplary student here at Oregon State University. Underrepresented Native students struggle. We have always struggled, and we are here within the walls of privilege trying to make our way into an even playing field. I've been involved in Indian education since 1986. I was on the White House Committee for Indian Education under President Bush, and I think that this position would greatly benefit the students here while still allowing them to be leaders in their community at the university. I have a list of testimonials. I will not read all of them to you tonight. If you would like, I can give them to you to consider.
That'd be great.
However, I would like to read the top one. It's from the Oregon Indian Coalition on Post-Secondary Education. It is from the chairman, Jackie Leno Grant, and says, "To whom it may concern. On behalf of the members of the Oregon Indian Coalition on Post-Secondary Education, I submit this letter of support for the placement of a qualified American Indian and/or Alaskan Native professional in Oregon State University's new Longhouse. The OSIPSI commends OSU leadership, their support of this project, and the planning and work accomplished thus far. Additionally, the OSIPSI supports the creation and implementation of culturally relevant, appropriate, and accurate programming within this space. This space can have many tangible outcomes for students, as well as intangible outcomes. Staffing OSU Longhouse with a Native professional sends a strong message to the campus and outside communities about how OSU values Native cultural education and the benefits it can have on academic success of Native students at OSU. One of OSIPSI's primary goals is to support the equitable access, recruitment, and retention of Native students, faculty, and staff at Oregon's 2- and 4-year educational institutions. We believe Native professionals working with Native students on our campuses in an essential element of their academic success. One more thing that I would like to add is that the person who is hired needs to be connected in community. They need to know who they are as an Indian person in order to help our students be successful. The other statements that come to you are from Feather River Consulting, Kathleen Osborne Gallery, Ramona Tanawesha, and she is from the Warm Springs, and also Jessica Cardinal Lanier. So I can read these for you, or would you like me to submit them to you for?
Yeah, we would appreciate copies of those if you could.
Oh, sure, I can hand these to you now.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you for your remarks. Further discussion.
Good evening. My name is Mary Gold Holmes, and I am the graduate teaching assistant at the Women's Center. I am one of the fortunate graduate teaching assistants to have a professional staff in my center, and even with a professional staff, I'm struggling to balance all that is expected of me in my center with my schoolwork. A lot of times our undergraduate student employees or student leaders see me as a person they can turn to. And the problem is I'm also a student and I can't be there for them 24/7 because at the end of the day, I need to graduate, I need to be a student. And having the professional staff at my center has really been great in terms of the workload, but also emotional support, and also professional staff because they're professionals, they're supposed to be able to help us, whereas I'm still an aspiring staff, so I may not have all the tools and knowledge necessary to solve some of the more complicated problems, and it's an enormous responsibility to have these students and to foster them to become better people. So having that professional staff has really helped me, and I really don't know how my colleagues at the other 4 cultural centers do it without a professional staff, because like I said, I'm struggling and I have a professional staff. So I really hope you'll consider this request and send it back to mediation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Further discussion on the diversity development budget fee level. Representative Palm, I think your list of yields, if you would like to officially yield, just for the sake of.
Anna Marquez.
All right, you have the floor.
Hello, I'm Anna Marquez, and I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator for the Native American Longhouse. I've been working at the Native American Longhouse for the past 3 years, and I see through other cultural centers, not even on this campus, but in other campuses in California, that they have also the 6 cultural and resource centers, that they have professional staff members there. And talking through the students there, we saw that a lot of their support was through their professional staff. We don't have that currently here, and it's very hard for myself and for my staff members and for the other cultural centers to do academic work and also work on campus and be able to succeed in both things. And I feel as a student, it's taken a toll on many of the students that try to be leaders here to do both a student and a leader. And I would like for it to go into mediation and be taken into consideration so we can have professional staff.
All right, thank you very much. Further discussion on the diversity development budget. I'm assuming Representative Palm's going to yield. There we go.
I'm sorry, Mandolin Suzuki.
All right, the floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Madeline Suzuki. I'm a second year as a community outreach at the Asian and Pacific Culture Center. I actually went to Stanford a few days ago to look at their structure of their culture centers and the professional staff. One thing I just want to emphasize is working at these culture centers, we emphasize a lot about cultural awareness, and sometimes we forget that we're students first. And having this professional staff on site, it would be a great connection to different colleges, to different advisors on campus, and giving students the comfort of knowing that they're supported academically as well as culturally. So I'm really pushing for this professional staff on site, just for an academic resource to higher the retention rates of students on campus, and just to give students more of a comfort of knowing that they're academically supported. So I would like this to go into mediation. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on with discussion on diversity development's budget.
Hello, my name is Caitlin Kerrigan, and I am the co-chair for Student Diversity Budgeting Board. And I just wanted to outline for Senate and House the cost that it would be for 1 to professional faculty members. So for 1, it would be $1.12 per student for fall, winter, and spring. Their salary would be about $45,000, and their OPE, which is other professional costs and expenses, which is like healthcare, things like that, is an additional $29,736. For 2, it would be $2.23 per each student per fall, winter, and spring term. So these are just a couple of costs. I just wanted to outline. It's $1.12, and for 1, $2.23 for 2, and I also have copies of this if you all would like to see that. I can email it out as well. And we've worked really hard on this budget, and we would really appreciate if you could move our budget to mediation. Thank you.
Thank you for your remarks, and thank you for your work on this budget. Further discussion. Representative Palm?
Two quick things. One, just as a grad rep, it's not appropriate to ask a graduate student to choose between their own thesis and their community. And by setting the workload up here and only providing 20 hours a week with no support there, that's what's happening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Further discussion on this budget? Yeah. SIFC Chair Alvarez.
I want to thank you all for talking. It's good to hear the voices like that, although I mean, it's nice to hear them earlier in the process rather than later. I do have a question on the request for just 2 professional staff. I'm wondering why not all 4? And why not request all professional staff for all 4 cultural centers instead of just 2 of them or just 1 of them?
Is there someone who can answer that question?
Hi, my name is Tomomi Kurosaki.
So in the long run, we would like to have all 4 full-time positions for all 4 cultural centers when they are built. Currently, the NAL is built, and the 4Cs is scheduled to be built September of the 2013-2014 school year, academic school year. The 2 professional positions. We'll be able to collect data and see the effectiveness of these 2 positions and use that as a template to ask for 2 more positions for the Lonnie B. Harris Black Cultural Center as well as the Asian and Pacific Cultural Center.
Thank you very much. Further discussion? Yeah, go.
So, that scared me, sorry. My name is Gina Ramos, and I wear a lot of hats. Let's see, I wear hats outside of the university. I wear hats within the university. And I would like to support going ahead and moving this to mediation because of the fact that actually there is a need. There's a definite need for permanent staff within the cultural centers. Yes, we're only talking about 2 right now, but there's a big need out there, not only from the outside, from within, because I'm a part of a lot of different committees. One being College of Forestry. Another one I can't name because I just can't, but it's a federal government agency. We utilize the cultural centers, and to be able to have the pools of people that we need to be able to offer them positions and be able to get them out there in the professional world is very important. And one of the things that we're finding is that a lot of students are overworked. GTAs, coordinators are overworked. And to be able to offer them opportunities as in internships or other opportunities that we have is really hard to go ahead and be able to offer them opportunities when they can't. It's really hard for them to balance the workload that they have now. So my plea is to move this to mediation, but it's also to keep in consideration that we're built and founded on the idea that we're a very diverse university. But again, we put little effort towards going ahead and assisting in different areas that people of color or all different people in all the different cultural centers need. We have the Gay Pride Center, we have the Women's Center, we have a lot of different centers that all support different needs that our students have. And one of the big things is to be able to have consistency. If we don't have consistency and there's a lot of turnover, we lose people because the trust is not there. We need to develop our professionals. We're all professionals, developing professionals. And yeah, sometimes even me, who's kind of an older student, needs consistency, needs people that you can rely on. And this bill provides that. So just keep that in mind when you make your decision tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Ramos. Further discussion? Senator Parker.
So I'm Madison Parker. Again, I was on SIFC this year, and I was the liaison to this budgeting board. In the conversations that I have had and the conversations that I participated in as a committee member, I was under the impression that it was clear that the committee did support the intention of these positions. Our recommendation was actually ask for 5 of the professional faculty, because I think that if you're trying to have parity between all the centers, why wouldn't you also ask for one for the Pride Center in the long term as well? That being said, we also need to have transparency between the budgeting boards as well. So like ASOSU, for example, had the administrative and logistics advocate that was not filled. They reviewed it and they removed it from their budget. SSI added another position. They showed a position description that they had worked through with HR, and that position was accepted and passed for next year. Currently, if diversity development was interested in adding another position, they could do it today out of working capital. They could also come to SIFC right now and ask for something out of their contingency fund as well. So in my understanding, by no means was our conversation ever that we do not support the intention of this, because myself as a committee member, I do. I 100% do. I think these positions are necessary, and I would like to see them happen as soon as possible. However, I want that to be something where we can show that there was a plan that was made, that the need was assessed, and believe me, I do hear that that need is there. I agree that that need is there, but we don't have a position description, and that is a really big problem in my opinion, and I think that was shared by some of the committee members as well. We need to have a position description, and HR needs to be part of that process so that it happens as well. Last year, a position was passed by SIFC for diversity development, and the position description had not gone through HR, and it still has not been filled today because there were conversations that happened about how that position would need to be classified. And so as a member on SIFC, I think that we are excited that there are now going to be 3 new positions working with diversity development, with the classified position being hired soon, the new custodian, and the GTA for the Pride Center all coming online. And we think that if diversity development was able to have a period to kind of seek, understand, or to be able to see what that looks like internally and assess the needs that they have internally, but then also if they were able to have a position description that would outline the responsibilities of that position, we think that it would be helpful within diversity development as well. And I do not want to speak for diversity development, but it was something that the board had set up as a process for this year, is that we would not approve any positions that did not have a position description. And that really was the only part of the process that made the conversation happen the way that it did. So again, I would just really like to reiterate that we see the value of those positions. We hope that they happen. We even encouraged the diversity development to create the position description and ask for a contingency request for this year. We're not even saying that it would need to wait till next year. So we want these positions to happen. We just would like to see the position description so that it can happen as transparently as possible. And so, again, with that, I do think that this should go to mediation at this point, because I really appreciate all of you showing up and this conversation happening, but just to give a background on where the committee was, at least from my perspective, I think that was a lot of the conversation that I participated in that happened as well.
Thank you, Senator Parker. With that, we'll move on to further discussion. Go ahead.
Thank you for all your time. I really appreciate you sitting here and listening to us and listening to Student Diversity Board. and just listening to the student voice. We really need these positions, and I wanted to follow up with your question. Would we have support from the SIFC chair for professional positions? Because ultimately that's what we would like. But I was under the impression that we weren't going to get funding for any. So if I can get your verbal confirmation that we are going to be able to fund these positions, then great, we would love to move forward.
Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, so I definitely think there's a need and everything. The trouble what I had was the process for during the budget submission and all that, asking for the positions. I don't see why not, because I know there was an issue behind on how long it would take to get these positions filled, because last year when we approved that classified position, it still didn't, and it still hasn't been filled. That's like, it's troublesome from my eyes and the process perspective, because it's like part of the criteria is judging budgets on what they have done in the past, and it's kind of like, well, if it took so long here, I don't know really how far along you all are on doing this, because I really don't see if the NL comes online, NL's online, and the rest of the cultural centers start coming online next year. I don't see why not a contingency request could easily be granted for these positions, and you could easily also fill them out of your own working capital. The main concern from my perspective was the process and and how we weren't the timeline. We weren't really sure on the timeline and that classified position as well. Like I definitely see professional staff being at all the centers that don't have professional staff currently. And I don't see why that would not happen easily within a year and a half. And once everyone is on, once all the centers are online, it was just kind of troublesome, because I mean, even the communication between like the director and the admin side behind diversity development and the culture centers, it was kind of tough to see. And because after the budget presentation, then when you guys came to open here and you didn't actually even like request after you guys talked and everything, and it wasn't actually requested anymore. So I kind of figured we worked everything out, but it was just mainly from the process perspective, because that's kind of why you'll see what we did with the normal music budget. Kind of the process wasn't there, and you'll see later on what we kind of did to their budget and what we don't expect that to the end result to be what happened, because we told them that you need to actually do the process and then come with a contingency request, because that's the bar we're setting. It's like you kind of have to take our process seriously, and then we will respond in kind. So that's kind of my perspective on everything.
Well, thank you for your rationale. I do respect SAFC and I respect the process, but the need is now. We need a position now. The NAL is open, and we need someone there that can provide additional support. We would really encourage Senate and the Congress to move our budget to mediation so we can potentially talk about funding for professional staff starting now. Because if we don't, the earliest that we'll get someone is December or January, and that's not acceptable because we have a need now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I would say if you need, then do you know how quickly you could get a position filled?
I don't have logistical details personally, but I think we could bring them on within the next couple of months.
Yeah, because the need is now. That's where I would see a contingency request. Because it doesn't start till July, the funding that we would grant.
Right. It would be great to have someone in July.
Yeah.
We would really appreciate that. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, further discussion on the diversity development fee level. Senator Setzler.
Hi there. I just wanted to quickly speak from the point of view of SIFC. one of the issues that was raised earlier was during our meeting, a lot of people came. They presented and they talked about this need that was in all of the cultural centers. And someone, I can't remember exactly who, said that they felt that the SIFC didn't listen. I'd like to say we did listen. I feel that I gained an understanding that there is a need out there. But as the SIFC, we're here to evaluate the responsibility of the budgeting board and the request that's being made. And the issue with this request is the same one that there was last year. I would really like to approve these positions, but because the description hasn't been drawn up, if we were to approve the money, the thing that happened last year where the money for this position has been sitting and rolling into fund balance all year. We don't want to see the same issues happening again. If this rolls into mediation, this is the same issue that's going to continue to come up. What I would really like to see is working with HR, bringing this position forward, and coming to SIFC for a contingency fund request, because that's what we're here for. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Setzler.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of reiterating the main concern. I mean, because that was like last year, because that position never happened, it was probably around $1 or so. That was charged to students that never needed to be charged because, I mean, look at us now, it's still not filled. I mean, that's like your responsibility to like everyone, budgeting board, make sure the organizations have everything they need, as well as the students, to make sure that the money in the organization is being managed correctly. And that's where we try to come into balance. And that's why what was reached, at least from my point of view, was because that was a good balancing point, was to really, so we could do more discussion on this and they could definitely come with contingency requests. They have plenty of their working capital. At the same time, we're also holding the same bar to other organizations. We're holding the same bar to other organizations as we are to student diversity.
All right, further discussion on the diversity development fee level. Yep. If someone would like to yield to our student advocate.
Yield.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much. I know it's highly unorthodox for a professional faculty member to come speak on behalf of student fees, and really I'm going to try and remain as viewpoint neutral as I can. My hope here as the advisor to this body is to bring to your attention that the candidates that you may be able to obtain for a position, if it's funded through contingency funds, without a guarantee that the position may not be able to be funded after that initial contingency fund request is provided. This year, the SIFC did pose to all the budgeting boards to not have a funding increase. Next year, the budget situation may be entirely different, and there may be absolutely no funding increases, period. And therefore, it could put the diversity development budget into a situation where they would not be able to afford to fund positions with people who are already in them. And so an applicant for a contingency funded position has no guarantee of a job after 1 year. An applicant for a position funded through a diversity development budget, currently not contingency funded, has some guarantee of a position the following year and years beyond. So consider the type of applicant that you could get for a 1 year guarantee versus a multiple year guarantee.
Thank you very much. Further discussion on the diversity development fee level.
I'd like to speak to that. I would strongly disagree with that assessment. For example, our little village, last year, the contingency request was granted to start with the rec sports facility, and this year we funded it. When we look at budgets, again, we're not just trying to cut money we're not just trying to find ways to lower the fee. If the contingency fund is granted, I see no reason why that would not be funded by SIFC during once the budgeting season came up. I cannot stress to you how much that I don't see that happening.
All right. Further discussion? Go ahead.
I don't have a lot of details However, I am appraised of the knowledge that there has been a conversation started in a description for this position through HR so that people could be ahead of the curve so that the situation that we ran into last year would not occur again. So currently there is conversations taking place with HR in regard to a position description for this professional part that we are trying to get added into the cultural centers.
Thank you very much. Further discussion? If I could get a yield for the group. There we go.
Hi, everybody. Oh, sorry. So in response to the position that was created last year, there's been some speed bumps down the road. We tried to get it passed as a professional staff, and HR didn't approve of that. And there's just been some bad communication between HR and diversity development. I wasn't here last year, but this is all from just being part of the search committee this year and working with the search committee. And just so you know, we're already deep into the process of hopefully hiring somebody by the end of this term. We were trying to hire someone as soon as possible before the last academic year, but it wasn't possible because of the speed bumps ahead. Speaking of.
Thank you very much.
Also, for this professional position, we already had a conversation with HR, and we are on the same page, so we wouldn't have any problem with like speeding down to this hiring process. So that issue has been resolved. So if we get the funding for this position, we should be able to hire that professional position right away.
Thank you.
So for starters, I mean, my question to you all is, has any of you had the chance to work with HR as far as hiring a professional position? You have? So you have worked with them. So you know that it's extremely difficult. I believe it takes sometimes 6 months to fill in a position. I know for the Price Center, it took over a year to fill in a professional position. But as far as the position description, we want to engage the students. We want, because the position is created for the students, so we want to engage some student leaders on campus and sit down with students, myself, other GTAs, as well as some of the students that currently work in the center and that are involved in certain organizations on campus. And we want to sit down and create a position description with them as soon as it passes through the budgeting process. And with that said, I would like to reiterate that if you guys are for the diversity development and the cultural centers, that you guys vote no against the proposed budget and moving into mediation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative Rob.
Hi, everyone. I believe that the debate for this has gone on for a very long time, and we've heard a lot from both sides, and I believe at this point most representatives and senators can come to a conclusion, and at this time I would like to move the previous question.
All right, there's a motion and a second to move the previous question. With that, we'll go ahead and move into a voice vote. This will require 2/3 of the body, senators and House voting together. So all those in favor of moving the previous question and going into a vote, please say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay.
Nay.
Abstentions? All right, motion carries. With that, we'll go ahead and move into a vote on the diversity development budget, starting with the House of Representatives.
John Eljetz. Pedro Arenas. Saul Boulanger. Sonia Contreras. Andy Derringer. LJ Dewey. Billy Eason. Braden Johnson. Nick Martinez. Carly Olson. Samuel Palacio. Curtis Perkins. Michael Robb. Nick Rosoff.
Against.
Tom Sanderson. Nick West. Mallory Bailey. Kyle Copeland. Tyler Morrison? Matthew Palm? Motion fails.
Okay, and we'll go ahead and take the votes for the Senate just for the sake. Get it on record.
John Barron? Colton Swearingen? Brianna Taniguchi? Tyler Hogan? Lubna Khan? Dylan Henrich? Kevin Coffey? Matt Hare? Tara Setzler? Madison Parker? Thomas Bancroft? I have it passing the Senate.
All right, so the student fee level for diversity development passes in the Senate but fails in the House, and with that, it will go into mediation committee. So the mediation committee will be contacted sometime after this to set up times and dates to deal with that budget. What's that? 5 days? We'll look at the bylaws, yeah. Okay, within 5 days or so. Representative Aldrich. All right, there's a motion for a recess. Is there a second? There's a motion to second. Is there discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into a vote. All those in favor of taking a brief 5-minute recess, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Division. All right, all those in favor of taking a quick recess, please raise your hand. All right, all opposed? Your hand down. All right, motion carries. Before we go into recess, I would advise all the representatives and senators, don't sneak off when we're on recess. That happened last year and it made me really mad. This is important work. Everyone come back in 5 minutes. All right, thank you.
Brad, how many more budgets were there? I can't remember. 3? 4. 4? Okay, EdAct, Rec Sport.
I'd really
Hey,
want
work.
to know, but
If we could get everyone to return to the chamber, please.
I find like that you change
Tell all your friends.
Why is he not
Boom, quorum, ping pow. Right, if everyone could take their seats, we'll begin shortly. Taylor, Taylor, Taylor. All right, and from my count, we have quorum. Good job, y'all. All right, we're going ahead and reconvene. With that, we'll move on to our next budget, recreational sports.
All right, so for recreational sports, the only major thing was a decision package for $75,000 for equipment funding because their equipment reserve got a little low and they have a lot, they have significant equipment needs over the next few years, and they had a very good detailed plan on how they're going to bring that up and the expenses expected that would tap into that reserve. So we granted that request, and that's other than that, it was just mandatory increases, but it was still a very, very slight drop in the fee. There was both. Yeah.
All right. All right. Do we have any recommendations from appropriations and budgets?
If anybody would like to speak, please feel free.
Yep. Open the floor for discussion on the recreational sports fee level. Anybody? Is this pertaining to rec sports? We good? Okay. Seeing no discussion, we'll go ahead and move into a vote on the recreational sports budget, starting with the House of Representatives.
John Eljetz. Pedro Arenas. Saul Boulanger. Sonia Contreras. Andy Derringer. LJ Dewey. Billy Easton. Braden Johnson. Nick Martinez. Carly Olson. Samuel Palacio. Curtis Perkins. Michael Robb. Nick Rosoff.
Abstain.
Tom Sanderson. Nick West. Mallory Bailey. Kyle Copeland. Tyler Morrison. Matthew Palm. Passing the House.
All right.
John Barron. Colton Swearingen. Brianna Taniguchi. Tyler Hogan. Lubna Khan. Dylan Henrich. Kevin Coffey. Matt Hare. Tara Setzler. Madison Parker. Thomas Bancroft. Passing the Senate.
All right, with that, the SIFC recommended fee level for recreational sports is approved. Moving on to the next item on our agenda, educational activities.
All right, so for educational activities, they're actually able to reduce their fee significantly. Number one, using a significant portion from their working capital to fund their budget. We made a plan over the next 5 years, and also a new funding model that they introduced for the student organizations that they support. For example, that'd be like college Dems and college Republicans. And they kind of found that the overall pot of money for student orgs, they never actually used the amount that they've been allocated, so they kind of just made it a general fund, and then the student orgs could use kind of ask for PRs from that fund, and they were able to reduce that by, it was about 20%, I think. So that was where the main reductions came from.
All right, and appropriations and budgets.
Open the floor.
All right, is there any discussion on the educational activities budget? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into a vote, starting with the House of Representatives.
John Eljetz. Pedro Arenas. Saul Boulanger. Sonia Contreras. Andy Derringer. LJ Dewey. Billy Easton. Braden Johnson. Nick Martinez. Carly Olson. Samuel Palacio. Curtis Perkins. Michael Robb. Nick Rosoff.
4.
Tom Sanderson. Nick West. Mallory Bailey. Kyle Copeland. Tyler Morrison. Matthew Palm. Have it passing the House. John Barron. Colton Swearingen. Brianna Taniguchi. Tyler Hogan. Lubna Khan. Dylan Henrich. Kevin Coffey. Matt Hare. Tara Setzler. Madison Parker. Thomas Bancroft. I have it passing the Senate.
All right, and with that, the SIFC recommended fee level for educational activities is approved. Moving on to the next item, which is music ensembles.
So music ensembles, if you notice about the 50% reduction, that was mainly due to process. We got a budget the day of the budget presentation, which was the day before the open hearing, and we felt that it was not up to par, at least from what it looked like. It was just kind of a copy and paste from the previous year or the next year. So at least our standards, it didn't reach the bar that we were demanding across other budgets. So that's why we reduced their requests in half and told them that we need to work with each other over the next couple months and for them to come to us with a contingency request, so they would actually have the money they need in for next fiscal year.
All right, appropriations and budgets.
I think it'd probably be good to weigh in on this in mediation.
Okay, is there any discussion regarding the music ensemble's budget? Yep.
They have about, I want to say, do you know? If someone could recognize Jen, that would be helpful. Yeah.
Right now, currently in their fund, they have 68,000 on reserve, and SIFC did consider that in their recommendation.
Thank you very much.
So let's say if they were to use all of that, it'd be about $1, so they would still be reduced by about $1. I mean, so you could say no, but the whole point is they hope, as long as they do what they were supposed to do and do what every other budget did, they will get the money, and that's kind of where we come at this.
All right, Representative Palm.
Doesn't the budget have to be submitted to Ed Ray by like March 1st or some?
I know what I know what your question you asked. The contingency. So, the contingency. This is the fee that SIFC approves. This is the fee they're going to get next year, regardless. The whole point of the contingency fund is they will still get the money. So let's say they'll get $2.20 worth of money given to them in contingency fund as long as they do what every other budget did, which was submit an actual budget with thought behind it.
Okay.
Which was what we didn't really see.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
There was also a letter from somebody in like the College of Liberal Arts that was up on your website about something to do with the budget not being done properly, and he was taking responsibility for it on behalf of the students. Could you clarify what that was?
There's a letter on my website.
Can anybody answer that?
Yeah, on the. I was just confused what that was. How that.
Yeah.
Yeah, please. Thank you. Yeah, if you could. Yield.
Music is the one SIFC budget that we and the AABC. I'm Jennifer from the Auxiliaries and Activities Business Center and the Finance and Accounting Manager. Music does not come through our business center. We transfer their fees in 3 lump sums to them for fall, winter, and spring. So they actually run through another business center. Part of the discussion and part of what was presented to SIFC was information from the other business center, letting them know what was provided. However, there was some miscommunication in the music department as far as presenting that. So what was actually submitted to SIFC was the FY13 budget duplicated to not be updated, if you will, for the FY14. So they have worked with their business center, and their business center has provided actual reports. It's not in the same format that we provide, but it is in the same banner. It's ran through Banner just like ours are.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
I'll let Brad speak to it too, but they don't know where all their funding sources are coming from, so they're actually working through that right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Brad, did you have?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, when we get out the budget lines in November, that's when, I mean, it's nice to start, and they really didn't figure this out and realize that, oh, we don't really know what's going on until like late January probably. So.
Thank you very much. Go
And
ahead.
I will iterate one other additional point. There is enough money in contingency to cover all these recommendations that SIFC is bringing when they are making the statements of contingency.
In SIFC contingency?
Correct.
Yeah, it's like, so when I spoke, then in music's own working capital, they only have about $1 worth, but I mean, we could fund them, yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Further discussion on the music ensemble's fee level.
Yeah. I just want to remind you all that sending a package to mediation does not kill the package. It gives 5 extra days for consideration.
Thank you very much. Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into a vote, starting with the House of Representatives.
John Elgetz. Pedro Arenas. Saul Bollinger. Sonia Contreras. Andy Derringer. LJ Dewey. Billy Easton. Braden Johnson. Nick Martinez. Carly Olson. Samuel Palacio. Curtis Perkins. Michael Robb. Nick Rosoff.
Against.
Tom Sanderson. Nick West. Mallory Bailey. Kyle Copeland. Tyler Morrison. Matthew Palm. And I have it failing in the House.
All right, and Senate?
John Barron. Colton Swearingen. Brianna Taniguchi. Tyler Hogan. Lubna Khan. Dylan Henrich. Kevin Coffey. Matt Hare. Tara Setzler. Madison Parker. Thomas Bancroft. I have it passing the Senate.
All right, so the musical ensemble's fee level passes in Senate but fails in the House, so that will be sent to Mediation Committee. Moving on to the last on our agenda, student facility improvements.
So this is the money that is used to basically pay back the bonds that are issued. And what this is funding right now is the turf improvement, McAlexander Fieldhouse renovation, and the SEC/MU East Wing that will be coming online pretty soon, and like it's already in works too. And all these have been approved by, these are all capital construction initiatives, and they're all voted on by the entire student body as a whole.
All right, anything from appropriations and budgets?
I would like to pose the question, in the need for building renovations, as there will be many such more need with an increasing student population, do we believe that it should continue to come out of the pockets of students in the form of student fees?
With that, we'll open up discussion on student facility improvements. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move into a vote, starting with the House of Representatives.
John Elgetz. Pedro Arenas. Saul Bollinger. Sonia Contreras. Andy Derringer. LJ Dewey. Billy Easton. Braden Johnson. Nick Martinez. Carly Olson. Samuel Palacio. Curtis Perkins. Michael Robb. Nick Rosoff.
Abstain.
Tom Sanderson. Nick West. Mallory Bailey. Kyle Copeland. Tyler Morrison. Matthew Palm. Passing the House. John Barron. Colton Swearingen. Brianna Taniguchi. Tyler Hogan. Lubna Khan. Dylan Henrich. Kevin Coffey. Matt Hare. Tara Setzler. Madison Parker. Thomas Bancroft. And passing the Senate.
All right, so with that, student facilities improvements fee level passes. So that is the end of our budget packages. So with the exception of music and student diversity, all budgets are approved. Those two will go to the mediation committee. It's pretty late, so I'm going to make my speaker's announcements pretty quickly. Just a quick thank yous. I'd like to thank you, the senators and representatives, for coming out tonight, spending a few fun hours. I know it's tedious work, but this is probably the most important thing we do all year, and you should be applauded for your service. With that, the proxies who filled in, I bet you didn't know what you were getting yourself into, but we appreciate your effort nonetheless. We couldn't do it without you. You should be commended. Moving on, I'd like to thank SIFC and Chairman Brad Alvarez for their work throughout the budgeting cycle. It's been a lot of fun. I'd like to thank the folks at the AABC, all the faculty and staff and students who were involved in the budgeting process. I'd like to thank the students who came tonight in order to speak their opinions. I hope the ASOSU Congress can always be a forum for student voices. And I'd like to thank the students who served on budgeting boards, as well as y'all who have volunteered to be on mediation committees. So thank you very much. All your work should be commended. It's been tedious, but it's probably the most important thing we do here. So with that, I'll go ahead and hand it off to my vice chair, Vice President Cushing, for president's announcements. He has none. Perfect. With that, we'll take House comments. Yeah, go ahead.
Just after, if I could have everyone that was on mediation from Congress just meet me on the side, that'd be great.
All right. House comments. Seeing none, move on to Senate comments. Senator Parker.
Sorry, I'll keep this really brief, but I do want to take advantage of this being joint session. So again, my name is Madison Parker. I'm in the Senate, and I'm also the Oversight and Ethics Chair. I was just wanting to let you all know that we are going to be making some changes to the ASOSU Code of Conduct, and so just because of how late it is in the term, we'll probably be beginning that right at the beginning of spring term. We have met with General Counsel. If you have any questions about that or the conversations happening, please come and talk to me. I am also interested in getting a bill through Senate and Congress in general about updating the statutes to have all of the ASOSU executive positions reflected properly so that we do not have to. You're working on that, so we'll talk, and if anyone else has stuff to add to that, please talk to me as well. And one other thing is I think that we will also need to clarify some of the elections positions on how people are able to run for multiple positions and what that looks like in the future. So if you have anything that you would like to add to that conversation before it is made into a bill form, please contact me as well. Again, my name is Madison Parker. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Parker. Further Senate comments? Seeing no, moving to gallery comments? Yeah,
I yield the floor to...
Oh, no, it's gallery comments. She can go up if she wants.
She's a proxy for...
Oh, okay, yeah, go ahead then.
Thanks, Jacob. Hi, everyone. My name is Migla Konatonga Hopoi, former ASOSU president. I'm glad to see you, Drew. Great to see an advocate in the position. Thank you for your comments and work tonight. Also, thank you to the House for being here, as well as the proxy. I myself was a proxy and forgot some of the votes that were going up so quickly, but keeping up is what we do here and moving forward. Thank the Senate as well for their time for being here tonight. My comments come from just, you know, I understand when it comes to the process for student fees, and I also understand the efforts that go into SIFC and the many weeks it goes into working with these constituent groups and caring for their needs onto the budget. But one thing that did hesitate with me tonight was the opposition from the Student Diversity Budgeting Board for their budget that was up there. There was a decision from SIFC, but then there was a decision from the community, and it was very loud. And what they were pointing at to was the process that they went through and how they weren't heard. I understand SIFC let them know that they had all their best interests and efforts, but people that come in groups of 30 and 40 does not mean that they were heard throughout the process. We saw that tonight, and it made me wonder, how was the process for other groups in SIFC? Just because of this, because they really were not feeling that they were being heard. That's why I love the process that we have at ASOSU, that we have this process tonight. So then they were heard, and many of them do feel their respect. But I think with these process that we go through, we must keep people's dignity intact. Every community, every person has a sense of dignity. And if it comes to the efforts that they don't feel heard, our alerts should go off that something's not going right. And I want to thank all the professional staff, Kurt Black as well as Jennifer Cry-Newark, for their efforts in supporting the students who don't understand finance, who don't understand accounting, to gain these skills in like the 8 weeks that they have to pull this budget together. You know, everyone was a community effort for it. And I just wanted to thank that effort, but also just clue you all into what you saw here tonight. You saw a community that wasn't heard, that protested, and that is moving towards mediation. So that's the greatness in the process is we do have mediation. With all that said, I apologize if any of my remarks offended. I do love the spirit of the students to have opportunities like this, and thank you for having me here tonight. And I really do appreciate all the new faces in the room. I like to see that, get some new blood in the house and keep us moving forward. And so I hope you all have a good and safe evening. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, former President Hopoy. Are there further gallery comments? President Harris?
Sorry, I know everyone has been here forever, but we're going to... Whatever. Oh, no, I didn't. The tuition equity is going to be voted on the House floor this Friday at 11, so we're sending a delegation up to sit in the gallery, and it would be wonderful if you all could say that you want to go, because we need lots of people from OSU to support. So, if you're interested in going to Salem on Friday, we're probably leaving around 9:30, do contact me or Dan or Drew Deathridge at asosu.gov@oregonstate.edu. Thank you.
Thank you, President Harris. Further comments? Thank God. Okay. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, moving to a vote. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Get out of here. See you all next week in House and Senate.